Hey everyone, welcome to Coastal Noise. This is podcast number 63 with Mallisa Mott and Beth O'Neil of the Mantras and Macros podcast. Really cool conversation with these girls. We talked all about nutrition, health, fitness. They both have some really incredible personal journeys that kind of led them to where they are now. They're both CrossFit chicks, and they just have a lot of cool stories and very knowledgeable about nutrition and different things. Their podcast, Mantras and Macros, you can find it on their website, mantrasandmacros.com. They do some blogs there as well, and social media and Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. They're all out there. And they're just pretty consistent, and it's great to see people that are involved from a nutritional and health standpoint, overall wellness. And I just had a great time talking to them. And in fact, it looks like I'm going to be doing their podcast maybe around beginning of May 1st, I think, tentatively is what we have right now. So go check out some of the links on the Coastal Noise podcast page. I have links to their websites and everything else. So if you enjoy this podcast, I highly recommend that you tune into the next one that I'm going to be doing with author of The Struggle is Real and nutritional coach Robbie D'Angelo. I'm really looking forward to sitting down with him and kind of continuing this conversation that is going to kind of branch off about a lot of the subject matter that we talked about today on this episode. So I highly recommend you tune in to that. And then also coming down the pipes, planning some other podcasts. Think I'm going to be getting Jim Pinkston of Pinkston's Music in here pretty soon. He's retiring, closing down the store, and he's a really cool guy, very knowledgeable about the music industry. So watch for that coming down. And then I've got some other ideas, other guests in the works. So just be on the lookout. You can follow me online, Stefan Lawson Music, on Instagram. I'm on Instagram all the time. I got a Facebook, you can find me there. And let's start the episode. This is number 63. Hope you enjoy it. All right, rocking and rolling. Okay. We're ready to kick it off?
Yeah, let's do it.
Get it out. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Coastal Noise podcast number 63. I'm with Mallisa Mott and Beth O'Neil of the Mantras and Macros podcast. Mallisa Mott is a certified nutrition and wellness consultant and active CrossFitter, and Beth O'Neil is certified in CrossFit Level 1 and is a sports nutrition consult. Started CrossFit in August 2014 and received her L1 in August of 2016, which is still pretty soon. That's a recent development still, so congratulations on that. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
And you currently teach CrossFit classes and boot camp classes at Crossfit Portside.
I sure do.
Very cool. Well, welcome both ladies.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Did I get everything in that intro right? Did I say anything wrong?
I mean, there's a lot more about us than that.
And we are going to get into that. We will definitely get into that. Well, this is really cool that we're meeting like this. Because I was just recently going through social media, looking for local people that were doing interesting things. And in the 4 years that I've been doing this podcast, I always encourage anybody who shows any interest at all to start a podcast. And despite doing that over and over again, and the level of entry being very easy and people having lots of passions and things like that, I still don't see a lot crop up around here and actually stay consistent. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine my surprise when I'm looking around and I find you two who are both not only very passionate, obviously, and involved both on a local level and a personal level in nutrition and fitness, but also running a podcast that you appear to be putting out on a regular schedule. Mm-hmm. And you're sharing information, you're giving advice to people, and just sharing your own experiences in hopes that you can kind of make changes for other people, which I think is huge because like we were talking about earlier before we came in here, there's so much content out there. and everybody has access to it on their phones and on their computers. And unfortunately, that content is not always good. You know, there's a lot of, you know, we get wrapped up in the news and the events that are constantly going on. So for me, I love it when I see outlets out there like what you two are doing, to share, you know, positive advice and knowledge on the subject that is directly related to people's everyday personal well-being. Information that folks can really use to better their lives and hopefully move forward and share their positive experiences with others, and maybe even empower somebody else to make those big changes, because both of you come from places of big changes. I mean, I've read your bios and your website and looked at your pictures, and I mean, you both made remarkable, you know, transformations over the years, and it's really impressive stuff. So congrats to
you.
both of you.
Thank you. That's awesome.
In that respect. So there's a lot that, you know, we could obviously talk about here. So I want to start things off by talking a little about those backgrounds that you have, and you came to be where you're at now. And I'd like to do that first by directing a question to you, Mallisa, because it deals with one of the major themes that we'll probably talk about today, which is kind of maintaining a wholesome diet with the right foods. On your website, you state that I started my weight loss journey in 2009. You lost 70 pounds and slowly learned the difference between dieting and creating a sustainable, healthy relationship with whole foods. And you put the word dieting in quotation marks. And can you explain to people a little bit more about what you mean by the typical idea of dieting versus this sustainable relationship with quality foods that you're referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all seen and heard people in our lives that are on some different diet. It usually has a name. It usually has a set of rules and restrictions, or a plan. And I mean, that while that can, I don't know, I guess they have their places, but I'm starting to feel like maybe that's not even true anymore. But everybody has done crash dieting. And I think with my background specifically, it's not sustainable. And you can do a program with a set of rules and see results maybe quickly. But unless you can follow that set of rules for the rest of your life, that's not something that's sustainable for you. So when you're talking about wanting to, most people, when they want to lose weight, they obviously want to keep it off, right? Nobody wants to lose weight with the intention of putting it right back on. So you can't do something temporary and expect that to be a forever type of change. So we talk about dieting a lot because, especially in our area, it's almost way more accepted than the actual lifestyle change itself. You know, for instance, if back before I really was living this lifestyle for a long time, I would go to a dinner with family, and if I said, oh, I'm doing Weight Watchers and I'm counting points, my behaviors were totally understood and accepted. But if I said, you know, now that I have been living this lifestyle for a long time, I get a lot more, I don't want to say like flack, but like people pick on me a lot more, ask questions. Like the idea of me just eating this way as a choice long term is almost crazy to people, especially in this area. And so I don't know, when we talk about dieting, it's just, do you really want to, you know, do something that's A, not healthy, and B, not sustainable? And so I don't know, I guess that's really what it comes down to. Dieting is just something that we try really hard to keep people away from, or to pull people out of, really.
More of a lifestyle change as opposed to a fad kind of thing, you know.
Right.
We live in a marketed society, so we see a lot of stuff that kind of comes and goes, you know, and a lot of it's well-intended, but also some of it's it can be for profit, you know. People are just trying to get you on board with something.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's kind of hard to navigate those waters and keep people motivated to go the lifestyle of actually making the switch that they can sustain with, you know. A lot of people think that, you know, they're short-term goals.
Right.
You know, they just want to lose that weight for a certain event or something that they have coming up, a wedding or a dance or something like that.
We've said that so many times.
Yeah. And instead of actually wanting to, you know, keep it where it should be, you know, people don't want to eat celery their whole lives for some
Well,
reason.
people don't have to. That's what we try to tell everybody. It's not about that.
Yeah.
And I work as a nutrition consultant. That's what I do during the day. I work at an internist office here, and he specializes in nutrition. And I see a lot of people who know that he has had success with patients with weight loss and other, diseases and symptoms associated with obesity or, that kind of thing. And so many people seek this doctor for treatment and, our services. And they say, well, I have a wedding coming up. I have, I'm going on a cruise or this vacation and I want to lose 20, 30 pounds, whatever the number is. And I always have to kind of have that conversation like, well, are you wanting to do this because you want to look good in a bikini for a week and then go back to your old habits? Or do you want to do this because, for your long-term health? And so it's just, fighting that mentality is going to be a lifelong task, and that's just something that whenever you do live a lifestyle, you choose to be a representative of that lifestyle, that's just something that you have to be prepared to keep saying over and over again.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Beth, I want to transition to you also on the website. You guys talk a little bit about your podcast, with you, Mallisa, kind of representing the mantra side of, with an emphasis on kind of mindset and mental health, and Beth often giving a voice to macro counting with your years of experience using those types of methods in your transformation. Can you explain to people what exactly macro counting is and why it was helpful to you?
Okay, so macronutrients or macros are going to be protein, fat, and carbs. So I found counting macros or flexible dieting a couple years ago, actually, through, of all things, Instagram. And I wanted to change my eating habits, but I didn't quite know what I needed to do. So I started doing CrossFit, and I found this method called flexible dieting. And the whole goal is to be able to eat as much as possible while still maintaining your goals. So the goal is to be able to eat a certain number of protein, fat, and carbs per day. And either you're losing weight, you're maintaining, or you're gaining weight. So you calculate your macros based on your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expendable. So anyway, so you calculate your macros and your TDEE, and then you just follow your macronutrients. So I started doing that about 2 years ago, and I've had a lot of success counting macros, and that's how I lost my weight and have been able to keep it off, thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now y'all are both very much into CrossFitting, right?
Yes.
Are you pretty engaged in it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's how Beth and I met, and that's how this came to be. And I would say, I mean, I'm not a coach or anything. I'm not a trainer, but I do. It's definitely changed my relationship with exercise. So I'd say things are pretty serious.
What is about CrossFitting that's so appealing to both of y'all? Because I've had a little experience. I was in a CrossFit gym for a couple months.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah. And I thought, for me, it was one of the most difficult forms of exercises.
Yes.
But that's one of the reasons why I loved it. I was working harder than I'd worked in years. The way they push you, just the variety of things that you can do. It's very intense, and I mean, you just feel great afterwards. Great in quotation marks, but yeah.
I mean, I love that it's for me, it's that it's challenging. Every day it's something different, and you can have a really great workout one day and be honestly, you can have a great workout one day and be on top of the world. And then the next day you are completely humbled because your life is turned upside down by this super hard workout, and then the next day, maybe, you're back on top of the world again, but every day it's going to be different, and it really pushes you to the limits. I mean, I've done things that I never thought I would do. I mean, I can do like handstands. I'm an adult person. Who does handstands as an adult,
Or how about those handstand push-ups?
Yeah, handstand push-ups. I mean, what, in what other sport do people do that, as an adult? I'm not a gymnast. I've never been an athlete before, but that's something that I can do now, which I think is pretty cool.
Super cool.
Yeah. So that's why I love it.
Yeah. I like it. Before I found CrossFit, I was always like just searching for the next best way to stay thin. I mean, that's really for me what exercise always was, because I was never athletic as a kid or even as an adolescent. I found I would say I found fitness, as I started to lose weight and try to better my lifestyle. But still, for a long time after that, I never enjoyed exercise. I never felt good afterwards. It was just going into the gym, staying on the treadmill for as long as I needed to burn however many calories I thought I needed to burn that day, because I had this transactional relationship with food and exercise. And one thing that is really great about CrossFit is that on top of everything that you guys both just said about the variety and the intensity and how challenging it is, it doesn't feel really like exercise. It feels like a sport. And I think that's something that I never felt growing up. You feel invested in it in a way that's more than just trying to look a certain way. And I feel like for a lot of people, and women especially, but a lot of people exercise because they want to look a certain way. And sure, there's an aspect there where people want to exercise because they want to be healthy, and that's always part of it. But for most people, we exercise to kind of look a certain way, or for a lot of women anyway. And stepping in the CrossFit gym, I never thought I would ever care whether I could do a pull-up or how much I could squat, or, I never thought I would care about those things. But it's so rewarding, and it's helped me grow so much mentally too. And it's not just exercise. And on top of that, the community is amazing. I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping you guys would comment on that. I mean, the communities of CrossFit, what can you say about them? I mean, they're phenomenal, right?
Well, it's so supportive. It really is. And it's worldwide. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I travel a lot. And, whenever I go out of town on vacation, I'll drop into a box, somewhere, and they welcome you with open arms. You're always introduced to everybody. I mean, everyone is just so kind.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I've been to boxes all over New England, and then here on the coast, and then in, New Orleans, but I've been to Dubai before, on the other side of the world. And it was the same thing. You're welcomed with open arms. So I think that the community is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you get to see a lot of people who make interesting, big transformations too.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be rewarding to see that as well.
Yeah.
It's so funny because CrossFit, for me, I know before I started, I was so intimidated by it. I was like, there's no way I could ever do this. It's so hard. Look at the kind of people who go. And it's so funny that for it to be so intimidating, it's literally I don't know how to say it, but like the least judgment I've ever felt when exercising. Truly. I mean, going into Planet Fitness and busting your butt on the elliptical or the treadmill for an hour is way more intimidating to me now than going into a CrossFit box, whether I know everyone or no one. Just because I know the attitude behind it. Everyone is happy that you're there and happy that you're putting in work, and they don't care what your skill level is. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, excuse me. Let's talk a little bit more about your podcast. How did you two come together to work on that project?
Beth and I have known each other for, I guess, a couple years now, basically since I started at CrossFit Portside. Yeah. So about 2 years. Back, I guess I want to say in August of last year, 2016, I just decided to start a podcast one day. I've always kind of had like an online presence. I have a photography business, and so I've blogged doing that for a while, and I got really into podcasts, just listening to podcasts through my interest in nutrition. I was just listening to a lot of nutrition podcasts and found like how fun they are to listen to. You find one that you really like and you enjoy the people's personalities, and it just like you become part of it. And so I just really liked that. And one day I thought, like, I want to do that. I've always tried to find my place, like on the internet, like where I belong, and wanted to create a presence. And especially as I was growing this really strong passion for nutrition and turning it into a career, I just thought, what better like platform than that? And so I had Beth on really early on, I guess like episode 4.
Yeah, like I think it was episode 4. It was right after I got my L1.
Yeah, because I realized like 4 episodes in, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this by myself. Every single week I got to have somebody else. And so Beth and I we really didn't even know each other that well, honestly. No. Before you came on, and it's easy for us. Like, I think we have so much in common, and we just kind of understand each other in a way that I think a lot of other people at my gym wouldn't have. And it was just really easy. So I had her on for a lot of episodes, and it became like a pretty regular thing where I was like, it just makes sense to make her like officially part of it, because it was like growing around her because she was a fixture of it. And so it was just pretty natural how it happened.
Yeah.
So we've been officially recording together. She's been officially part of Mantras and Macros for about a month now, but unofficially longer than that.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing ride.
Yeah.
But it's right. It's true though. I mean, we didn't know each other. We knew each other at the gym, but we didn't know.
I didn't know anything about you.
Well, no, we like learned about each other by recording.
Like through podcasting.
That's how I learned your weight loss journey. And that's, I'm sure, how you learned mine.
Right.
You know, isn't that amazing? I think it's cool.
I do
Podcasting
too.
brings you together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now you're both, you know, you've had your obstacles to overcome. What do you think were what were the biggest obstacles in your journeys of what you were trying to, you know, where you were trying to get to? What were the things that were most in your way?
Myself.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I was thinking of too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that usually when it boils down to, it's kind of an inner mentality or habits,
I mean,
or way of thinking, like thinking
Self-doubt.
Exactly.
CrossFit is this really hard thing or whatever, or
sticking to, I mean, just the willpower. I mean, I stood in my own way. I'd make a step forward and then I'd fall 2 steps back, but it was me, you know, when I was losing the weight and then trying to keep it off, it was all me. I would just kept getting my own way, you know, and then it finally clicked. It took a very long time, but I decided that like, I didn't have to live like that anymore. Like I didn't have to be unhappy. You know, I could work out and not kill myself doing it. I could eat without trying to starve myself, or conversely, like binge and then not eat the next day. You know, I just decided that, you know, you're not supposed to live like that. You're supposed to have more in life and be happy. And yeah, I just got out of my own damn way, and here we are.
There's so much mentality that goes into living a healthy lifestyle, and I think that's why a lot of people are unable to really like sustain it for a long time, because they think it's this set of actions. It's like actionable steps, and that's all it takes. When in reality, it's so much more of a psychological transformation, really, if you really want to change who you are as a person. And I mean, for me, it still is every day. I mean, if you listen to the podcast, you can hear me struggling with things all the time, like these new methods I'm trying, or these new things that I'm trying to tell myself, because really, in order to change like the core of who you are, like you can't just eat something different and do something different every day. You have to
decide every day.
You have to change from the inside out too. And it has to be this little bit of effort that you put in every single day. And so if you don't know that, which I didn't know that for a really long time. I mean, this is almost 9 years later, we're talking, it's taken me a decade to even get to the point where I realized that mindset is such a huge key factor. So, I mean, I think every person kind of has their own set of actionable steps. And I think, you know, you can't ever do everything right from the very beginning, but you have to be prepared to truly change the way that you think if you want to make a change in your life. And so I think that was probably the biggest challenge, is figuring out how to do that and how to keep doing that, because you can do it for a little while and then fall back into your old ways really easy.
Yeah. And just try to see a big picture, you know, just like we talked earlier about, you know, this isn't a crash diet. Like neither of us were trying to lose 10 pounds to fit in a bikini. I mean, we wanted to really dedicate some time and change our lives. You know, we wanted to live longer, live healthier lives. And so trying to see that bigger picture, I think, is what helped.
Yeah. And there are so many variables in it too. You know, people think if I just adopt this diet and I stick with it, you know, but I mean, there's a lot of things. There's the inner voice, there's getting enough sleep, you know, there's not overtraining. Some people will get gung ho and abuse their body that way. And then, you know, there are people who think, well, if I just go to the doctor, maybe there's a pill for me, you know, and, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
I work at a doctor's office. I feel you on that one.
Well, yeah. And I've worked in the medical field too, and I know the same thing. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard figuring out like who has a legitimate condition and like a chemical imbalance, and who really needs this. And is this something that will handicap a person or improve their life generally,
Right.
and make them, which is, I guess, why you go 10 years to medical school to make those calls or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So, but it's tough. I know for me, like, sleep was one of the big things I struggled with, like 8 years an insomniac.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of, yeah. And so, I had my period of trying to figure out how to get that together. And it was just recently, since this past August, that I started getting it together finally. And I just kind of dug my nails in and stood my ground and figured it out, and ended up going through a lot of nights that were just 2 or 3 hours at a time of sleep or whatever, but telling myself I was just going to do it this way and get it on track. And it goes back to, like, not looking at your cell phone after a certain hour, or exposing yourself to a lot of blue light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got the glasses, the little
I
orange
do.
glasses.
They're nerdy or weird looking, I should say, is more. I have the Cyclops looking ones or whatever. But yeah.
It really does help having like a routine.
I feel like it
before bed.
does. I feel like when it's real easy to tell too, because when you take them off, if you take them off in front of lights, like, you're like, whoa, so it just feels more, calm down.
Yeah, we've started kind of
neutral.
doing that in our house at night. Like, I've been trying to turn off the overhead lights early,
Yep.
like an hour or so before bed, and trying to, stay away from the phones. The phone is like, it's such a big deal. Like, it's so hard to put it down and stay away from it. But, like, in order to truly wind down, you really need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Beth is probably better at that than me.
Well, yeah, I try not to, like, I sound like a crazy person, but I try not to, like, get on, like, Facebook or social media a lot, like, after work, because I'm at a computer all day.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I creep enough on the
Yeah.
internet during the day.
Yeah.
So I try to turn it off at night and not just be on it all evening and all weekend. But, in my fits of boredom, then I get on it. And it'll keep me up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to make a habit of just reading at night,
That's
putting it
good.
away and reading.
Yeah.
Because that way, a lot of people might watch TV at night to kind of wind down. But I tell myself, if I really want to, like, I'm always looking for, like, what is the most optimal thing that I could do? Reading a book with dim light, with my glasses
I see
on.
that in movies. It looks very relaxing.
I see that in movies.
People do that in movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that yet.
So what are some questions you guys get most from people looking to make lifestyle changes? I mean, do people approach you with questions? Do you have certain advice that you like to give people to kind of help them on their path, get them kickstarted?
You want to go ahead?
Oh, no, you can start.
I was just going to say, it's not so much a question that I hear a lot, but it's something that I do hear a lot that I think it sets it apart, is people saying, "You're so lucky." If I'm talking to a patient at work, or if I'm talking with someone who really wants to make a change, they always, when they hear what I've done and the transformation that I've made, they always say, "Oh, you're so lucky." And it kind of is offensive a little bit in a way, because I'm not lucky at all. It's taken a ton of hard work. And so I think that that's one of the biggest, I guess it's not a question, but it's a misconception, is that there's this, you see people's before and afters all the time. You scroll through social media, you see before and afters left and right. And there's a set of people out there who think, "Oh, well, I could never do that because that's just not the kind of person that I am." Right. We had one of our friends on the podcast recently, and she is one of those before and after pictures on Facebook now. She's really dedicated the last probably 6 months of her life to eating really well consistently and getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning 3 days a week and going to boot camp. And she's become one of those before and afters. And she said, "I never thought that I could be. I never thought that I was that kind of person that could do that. I just thought that there were these other kind of people that did those things. And then there was me, and that was never an option for me. And I just thought those people were lucky." And I think what it comes down to is just putting in the work. You can't think that you are an exception to the rule and that you're special and that you can't do that. I mean, a lot of it is I don't want to say a lot of it is laziness. A lot of it is also insecurity and self-doubt. And so those two things coming together, you know, we tend to make up excuses for ourselves whenever we're not putting in 100%. And I think recognizing that and kind of stepping away from that, you won't be that person that says, "Oh, they're so lucky." You can be like, "Oh, I'm so lucky," or "I'm so awesome."
Yeah,
that was the first thing that came to my mind. It's not even really a question.
But no, it's true. But a lot of times people in the gym will ask me, like, if they see me working out and they've seen me coach a class or something before, well, Beth, how many times do you work out a week? And, you know, what do you eat? And so sometimes I'll try to have like just a real quick like conversation, like, well, you know, I work out X number of days a week. This is what I eat. This is why. You know, what are you doing? And then they'll say, well, I want to lose weight. Or my favorite is when somebody just wants to tone, but
They don't want to get bulky.
Yeah, they don't want to get bulky. They just want to tone up. But anyway, you know, they just want to tone. They just want to lose that 5 spot pounds or whatever. Well, okay, well, what are you eating? Well, you know, I don't know. Sometimes,
Brooklyn's.
Yeah, I go to Brooklyn's and then I'll go to McAllister's and I'll have a salad with, 2 cups of ranch. And then I drink, 6 beers a night. It's like, well, I mean, changing your lifestyle doesn't have to be like excruciating, but you do have to change.
To change something.
If you're not happy, then you need to change something. Obviously, this isn't working, or this isn't what you want. So, why don't you want to change? Like, why is this mediocrity, good enough for you? It wasn't good enough for me, so that's why I changed my life. So yeah, that's what I get a lot is, well,
And it's like, you just do what everybody always tells you that you have to do.
Exactly.
You have to eat well and move.
You have to,
Yeah.
There's
Just
no magic recipe.
make changes.
You just have to do it.
Make changes. No big deal. I mean, there's no secret answer. I don't know. I mean, if I knew the magic answer, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten
This
to
would have
where
been a
I
lot
was.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have saved a lot of time and energy, and
Well, also, it's really easy to, I don't want to sit here and be mean about it and like point fingers at people who don't want to quote unquote put in the work, but it's really easy to see only what you want to see, and that goes for even me now. Like, we talk all the time. We go through phases where we're happy with maintaining where we are and we feel good. And we go through phases where we're ready to kind of dial things in a little bit more and maybe meet another small goal that we have in mind. And I have to call myself out all the time. I say, how many times do I say, well, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything right. I've been living this healthy lifestyle, but am I? It's
exactly
easy.
When you examine,
When I look at my day, like, okay, well, I had 2 glasses of wine on a Tuesday. For what reason? Those are the little things that keep you from meeting your goal. That's not to say that you can't do those things and still live a pretty healthy lifestyle. But if you're reaching for really specific goals, then you do have to change something and put forth a little more effort.
Exactly. It gets a little bit harder.
You have to examine what you're doing. You have to be brutally, totally honest with yourself, because it's really easy to think that you're doing everything right. And when in reality, you're not doing everything that you can do if this is your set of goals.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult balance, because we preach a lot about finding a happy place where you don't live under restriction constantly and you don't feel like you have to be in the gym every single day of the week, so that you can live a happy, healthy, balanced lifestyle. But it also comes down to what your goals are.
Yeah.
Are your goals maintenance, or your goals, to kind of dial things in and sort of get to the next level, reach that next goal. So just take some self-examination.
Sure. I wanted to ask you guys about some supplement stuff. What are your thoughts on supplements? Like,
That's the other question people ask us all the time. Yeah.
like multivitamins and protein powders and things like that. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Because I'm kind of torn in a lot of respects. Like, if you pick up a protein thing, like just a whatever, like you'll see it a lot of times. It's what Mark Sesson calls Franken foods. It's like,
You like Mark Sisson. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Mark's Daily Apple. Holler.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Beth?
Well, so there's a lot of foods that are in like a gas station that are called protein bars that are just full of just absolute
They're
crap.
candy bars.
Yeah, no, it is candy,
Yeah.
and there's 6 grams of protein. That's
And
that's
15
irrelevant.
15 grams of sugar.
Yeah, 15 grams of
Or
sugar.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
20 grams of fat, and then 40 carbs. I mean, how is that a protein bar whatsoever?
Yeah.
I don't. I love to eat. I would much prefer to eat protein than to take protein powders or take bars as a supplement. But I do drink protein shakes as recovery sometimes after like brutal workouts. But I tend to just rather eat instead of, have bars and all this other kind of nonsense. I do take multivitamins and magnesium and fish oil and vitamin C. I do take all that kind of stuff, but my viewpoint is always to eat.
Which is an honest thing that a lot of people, if they have the wrong mindset, will go, all right, well, I just worked out, and I'm going to keep that going by not eating.
Oh, heck no. Oh, no.
Which is not the way to go.
No, it's not. No, after you eat, then you need to recover. You need to have carbs, first of all.
That was 5 years ago, Beth and Melissa, though. If we're,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that's part of a lot of people who think they're doing the right thing go through that.
Yeah. So, burn X number of, some sort of completely inaccurate number of calories on a treadmill or on an elliptical, and then just not eat for 2 hours. And then you're burning more calories and all this kind of stuff.
Makes me hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah. But no, like, older and wiser, Beth and Melissa, know that you need to eat real food, quality food. And if you supplement, then you can supplement, but it needs to be good quality protein powders. If you do bars, you need to make sure that they're not full of sugar and just full of crap. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, supplements are just that. It's a supplementation. So if it's being used responsibly as a supplementation and it's a high quality supplement, then I can see where they have their use. I take fish oil every day, and I take vitamin D, and I kind of take high amounts of vitamin D, but that's a prescription from my doctor for a certain, reason. And that's because I've had labs done and stuff like that. I know a lot of people who want to just fill up their cupboard with supplements because they've read some article about this and some article about that and the benefits of all these things. And I don't take supplements left and right like that. I take the ones that I take for the reasons that I take them. And then as far as protein and supplements and stuff like that goes, I mean, I do, and coming from a macro background where you're counting macros, you do aim for a certain amount of protein and carbs and fat every day. And if that is the appropriate number for you based on the amount of activity that you're doing, sometimes it's hard to eat that much protein because, I'm aiming every day for 145 grams of protein around there. And that's a lot of chicken. I mean, that's a lot of chicken. That's a lot of actual food. And if I'm in a position where, I missed, like I didn't prep my lunch that day or something, and I know that I didn't get enough protein for the day, I might supplement with protein. Or if I'm leaving the gym after a really hard workout, like Beth said, and I know that I'm not going to be able to eat an actual meal in the next hour, I'll maybe have a protein shake. But for the most part, I agree with what she said. As long as it's clean and, whatever clean means to you, as long as it doesn't have a ton of sugar and it's derived from natural things, I think that they have their place.
Yeah. Like just not relying on them as...
Right. You don't want that to be your sole source
not a
of
meal,
protein.
It's not a meal replacement. No,
Yeah.
It's a supplement. Yeah.
And we have girls in our group coaching. We do like macro group coaching. And we have a lot of people asking about supplements because a lot of these girls are coming from eating, grilled chicken salads for lunch every day and not really getting enough protein or food in general and not knowing how do I go from eating this to
double
getting
the amount of protein,
double the amount of protein that I need. And in those situations, they're going to have to supplement a little bit until they have figured out how they're going to eat that way, because that takes some time. You can't just change the entire structure of your nutrition overnight.
So are y'all both active counters right now? Do y'all like count your daily proteins and calories and things like that?
Beth has just, I saw it in MyFitnessPal the other day. She has logged every day for 765 days?
25 days.
725 days.
Wow.
Everything that I eat.
Wow.
The good, the
Every
bad,
day.
everything.
Wow.
But
That is dedication. Because I have tried to do those things like, and I've found an app. I can't remember what it was, but I mean, they've really streamlined it. I remember years ago, I was trying to do it to up calorie intake, and it was like before I might have had a smartphone, but the technology, the apps were probably not there quite yet. So I was doing it by like pen and paper and notebook. And after a couple weeks, I was like, man, forget this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. But now, the last time I tried using one of those things, maybe a year ago, I mean, it's real easy. You can just scan a barcode, and it'll pop up the product name and like all the information, and it'll just log it in.
It does.
You can do general searches. How much is 80% dark chocolate? 1
ounce.
10 gram.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll it's all there. So
I weigh and measure and log everything that I eat. I do. I mean, I do it for data purposes because I have been counting macros for so long, and I need to. I mean, honestly, I want to see how my body responds. This is going to sound crazy. I didn't know that I ate like a high sodium diet until I started counting macros and starting actually looking at it. And I was eating, before I started eating more cleanly, I was just kind of eating, deli meats and cheeses and just kind of whatever just to hit my numbers. And then I just started to look at my diet and my weight, and it's like, well, why am I not losing weight? Why am I just feeling kind of gross? I'm hitting my numbers, and I started to kind of more drill down more. Well, no wonder I'm feeling terrible because I'm eating like 5,000 milligrams of sodium a day. So just being able to see that data trend for the past 725 days is I think it's interesting. Maybe I'm just like a number nerd, but I can see average numbers of, my carbs for the past week or for the past month, and I can see how much
725 days.
Okay, that's enough. But yeah, I can see my intake, and I can look at my weight and see my weight going up or down. Look at my fat content and see if my weight's going up and down. And, even my mood, am I not eating enough, or am I eating,
sleep patterns.
Yeah, sleep patterns. So I can kind of just track how my life has been going by MyFitnessPal. I mean, food obviously that's an integral part of your life. And I can see different patterns of my life based in this app.
yeah.
Is that crazy?
Not at all.
It's actually quite philosophical.
725 days. I mean, it's true though.
Which is only like 2 years, I mean, you say 700, it's a lot,
Yeah.
But I mean, for somebody who's serious and trying to make a lifestyle habit of it, and I mean, I think that's great. That's a method that more people should adopt and, do thousands of days,
Yeah.
Because eventually in the future, I think it'll be so easy. We'll probably, I don't know. The technology is just going to keep progressing. Like there's always demand to make fitness and diet recording easier. So the technology is just going to evolve with it, with people's demands. And it'll get to the point where like everybody will be doing it flawlessly or without thought rather. So that's great.
It's so easy to me. I mean, because it's second nature, because I meal prep and I log all my food. I mean, if I go on vacation, I don't meal prep, or if I go out of town for a day or, and do something, I just kind of try to eat intuitively, then, I might be able to get close to my carbs and maybe to my fat, but I'm not going to hit my protein. If I don't have prepped foods, and I'm not going to eat all the chicken that I normally eat every day, which is an obscene amount of chicken. It's horrific. I have a problem.
Beth and I have pretty different opinions about macro counting, actually.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why she's the mantras and I'm the macros.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I think what she's doing is amazing. I could literally never do that.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to personality a lot because, and history and eating history, because I mean, I come from a pretty overly restrictive and kind of disordered eating past. So for me, that sends me into a tailspin. I've macro counted, and I think it is an amazing tool. I would have never, ever had a realistic idea of what my body needs as far as energy goes. But for me, I can't count and log and weigh for any extended period of time. Now, if I get kind of off track and I feel like I need to kind of like rein things in, I'll do it for a week or 2 weeks to kind of get that visual again of like, these are what my meals should look like. And this is what it means to properly fuel my body. But for me, it's so mental, it's everything is so mental. So if I feel like I'm putting myself into this little box of like what I have to eat every day, that is not what my healthy lifestyle looks like. And that's why it's really cool though. Now, macro counting is for everyone in terms of like actual science and how it works for each individual person. Because like I said, I would have never known what my meals should have looked like or what actual like realistic portions of protein for me based on my height and my weight and my activity level. I would have never known how to do that. And it's really cool how you can do that for however long you decide to do it. Beth has been doing it for 2 years now. She's never, ever going to lose sight of that probably. That's probably something that's so ingrained in her that as long as she lives, she's always going to know how to eat. And that might change over time. The older you get, the more your body and your physiological, you change. It will change, her needs will change, but she'll always have that intuitive like instinct of how to eat, which is really cool. And that's why I think it's great. That's why we kind of, and for another reason we use macro counting with, people that we counsel and coach is that everybody wants to do it. I mean, it's
super popular.
It's really popular right now. And it's because it works.
Yeah, it yields results. Yeah.
It's not the best thing to give to somebody, that has a disordered eating past or maybe a history of over restriction or, problems with that kind of eating. It's not the best thing to give to that person. But it can be an extremely useful tool to show anyone what it means to realistically eat. Because if you're counting macros, you're probably, and this is a generalization, but if you're counting macros, you're probably eating more than you would be if you were like a calorie counter or if you were doing Weight Watchers. Now, I've seen macro programs out there that are geared toward like bikini competitors that have you on pretty low calories and pretty low carbs. But for the most part, a healthy macro program is going to have you eating a lot more food than you think you need, which is great because people don't realize what it takes to actually fuel an active lifestyle. And I think that's really important. That's been the biggest factor for our clients is like actually seeing like, wow, I need that many calories a day. Yeah, really?
Like I can eat this many carbs. And like I'm used to not eating carbs at all. Like, wow, I can eat bread or I can eat yogurt or cheese. They can eat all these things that
rice. Like people are like, what? I can have rice?
Yeah, I can have sweet potatoes. What? I didn't think I can have that and lose weight. It's like, well, you can. It's just a matter of portion size and, how much you're eating. So when we try to also, we like, obviously we do counsel people with macros, but also further have, try to steer people towards clean eating, counting macros, rather than a truly, if it fits your macros type diet, which is going to be just a free for all. You eat whatever you want as long as you hit these numbers, candy, popcorn, ice cream, whatever it is, as long as you hit your numbers and you're okay. And we try to really steer people into a direction of eating whole foods. When you eat whole foods, not only can you eat more, but you're going to feel better. So, yeah.
I mean, you can, if you have any set of numbers, your set of numbers, my set of numbers, I can go and have Waffle House for breakfast and probably Pizza Hut for dinner and hit my numbers if I'm, that would probably be pretty hard, but, you can eat fast food and junk and make it fit your macros, quote unquote. But I mean, that might work aesthetically, but that's not going to do anything for your health.
And it's going to be short term.
Right.
Yeah. This is, we're trying to also, again, just promote sustainability. So long term. So, yeah.
I want to back up to what you were saying earlier. You had mentioned, your struggles with sodium intakes and all this kind of stuff. And you mentioned deli meat. I had an experience recently, and this is a factor of health that I've kind of begun to start paying attention to more. And I've had little different things, of experiencing this particular problem. But just last week, I had a particularly nasty experience where I open up the fridge and I find this pack of deli meat that's in the refrigerator. I don't know if I bought it. You know, nobody else is claiming it. It's like, maybe I can't, I can't remember. So and I say to myself, well, I know this has been in here for weeks at least.
Oh no.
And I mean, this day, it's like a Monday. The work week is just kind of starting, and the week prior to, I mean, I was like top of my game, like every day, hitting the gym and just getting everything done, being super productive, and was just looking to start this new week off on the same leg and like just continue that momentum forward. So I reach in there. It's like 5:30 in the morning. This is the first thing I'm reaching for to get, and I say I need to throw this away. And then I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just eat a slice or two and see, and I was asking for this because I will look up stuff if I don't know, and I'll be like, how long does this last? How long does this last in the refrigerator, on the counter, in the freezer? For whatever reason, I was just like, yeah, what's the worst that's going to happen if I just eat one slice of this ham?
So many bad things.
So many bad things. Yeah. Like my gut was wrecked for the next 2 or 3 days,
No.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
And when that happens, like people don't realize it, but when something's not settling in your stomach, like everything else can be fine, but you'll have less energy and you may not have the motivation to go work out, and then like for me and for most other people, I would think, when something like that happens, you don't really want to eat anything else because, you're just kind of a little nauseated or whatever. So bringing this full circle, gut health, do you guys emphasize gut health? Is that something that you pay attention to a lot? Because I feel like it's something that's now being talked about a lot more as part of the overall picture for health.
Especially in the paleo world, it all begins in the gut. I mean, that's like everyone starts preaching there. And to be totally 100% honest, I really am not very well versed on leaky gut and that whole spectrum of, because I don't really I understand what they say it means, but I don't even understand how you're supposed to diagnose it. Like from a medical standpoint, I don't really understand how you diagnose it, and I know how you treat it, because I listen to podcasts all the time about switching to paleo or AIP or whatever type of diet plan you're following. But yeah, I mean, it does. Everything does kind of come full circle. If you think about the effects of, you eat a food, you ate that slice of ham or whatever, and you felt all these different things. Maybe your focus was off. Maybe you were more fatigued than you would have been. And if you're eating these things regularly, it does change your gut bacteria, the profile of your gut bacteria. And I mean, it's something that I think branches into all other aspects of our life, like our symptoms in life, and we don't ever connect it to the same thing. We just think, oh, I'm tired today. Maybe I just didn't sleep enough. And while that may be true, it could also be because of something that you ate or something that you've been eating or just the way that you've been eating over time. And I mean, it does come full circle, all of the different symptoms. People that come in to the doctor's office thinking that they have, ADD. And they need like a pill for it. Like you were saying, everybody wants a pill for something, and you tweak their nutrition and they feel better. It's just, it all comes full circle, I think. But as far as the leaky, like specifically leaky gut, I'm not well versed enough to really talk about it. I think it's interesting. I like reading about it, but I don't really, I don't think we really take that approach with our clients, specifically because I think the type of people that we're working with are not the type of people who would even really put that information to use right now. I think the main people that we kind of end up working with are women who want to kind of step out of that over exercising, under eating lifestyle. And for them, if we can get them eating clean, we got them
and enough protein.
Cleaner, better, more whole foods, less processed junk.
Yeah. Less scared of eating fat. Less scared of eating.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah.
People think we need to get rid of the fat. I got to get it out of my diet.
Yeah.
When it's your body functions on many different forms of many different fuels, many different compounds, and fat is a major driving one. Which goes back to like what you were saying, kind of the paleo diet. Paleo people have been big about promoting that kind of thing. And it's so true. You need fat. And it's important. Your body needs it. And if you don't have it, then you're deficient,
It's true.
I run on fat.
Yeah, I eat a lot of fat too.
I do. I do. And I kind of, Beth, we talk about paleo versus macros all the time because I kind of subscribe to more of like, when you really eat pretty, you've done a paleo challenge before with me and Beth really has changed her diet a lot over the last year or so.
Oh yeah. Cause I used to do the if it fits your macros and just eat. I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah. I was a mess, but now that I do eat more clean, as a whole, I feel so much better. Just overall, I feel so much better.
But we talk about paleo versus macro counting all the time, just because I tend to kind of like fall toward more paleo because it is, and not a very strict paleo because I'm not a rule follower. I don't like following food rules, but paleo is easy for me because it makes sense to me, and so I would say that I eat pretty paleo. Most of the time. And then that's kind of what I preach to people that I coach. And I don't like to use the word paleo because I don't think that anyone should feel like they have to fall under any umbrella of food rules. But I do think that it's the one food approach that just makes the most sense to me. And I think that, I've also suffered from a lot of digestive disorders in the past and had a lot of trial and error and trying to figure that out. And it's helped me kind of pinpoint that. So I just feel like it's a good foundation to build off of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And your body, responds really well to paleo. So I think that, also a thing that we try to tell people is that there's not a one, macros, it's science-based and it's going to work. But as far as eating whole foods or paleo or doing,
Keto.
30-day detoxes or, keto, there's so many different approaches so you can drill down, and there's going to be something that works for one person that's not going to work for another. Mallisa eats pretty paleo and I eat pretty clean mostly, but I don't eat as paleo as she does, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, just interesting. There's so many different approaches, and what works for one person may not work best for another person, just, lifestyle wise. So
yeah, and helping people find out what works for them is really fun. And also seeing people realize that what works for them for a little while may not be what works for them long term either. And I think it's just, that's part of it. It takes the commitment and the time to kind of do the experimenting. You can't just flip flop around and do one thing for a week and another thing for a week. You have to give your body time to see if it really works.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust that process. Yeah.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. Yeah. Hashtag.
So what are some staples of y'all's diet? What are some foods that you just feel like, I know you said apparently chicken is
Chicken
on
breast,
the
yeah.
menu, like on the reg?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, every day.
And zoodles.
Twice a
Chicken
day.
and zoodles she eats like every day.
What are zoodles?
Zoodles are zucchini noodles.
Zucchini noodles?
Yeah, you spiralize a zucchini every day for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every day, I sound like a crazy person. Every day I have like 6 to 7 ounces of chicken for lunch and zoodles with like cauliflower rice or some marinara sauce or salsa or something.
What kind of machine do you use to spiralize it? Is it one of those things where you set it in and then push it in?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an spiralizer. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I eat a lot of sweet potatoes.
Yeah, that's probably between that and ribeyes. I'd say those are like my two.
That sounds
That's
awesome.
what we had the other night for dinner.
Yeah, we did.
Yep, that's what I had for dinner.
Yeah, so those are like my and then for breakfast I eat like 3 eggs and then a fruit usually for breakfast.
Okay.
So those are
Yeah.
like staples, and then I just interchange my snacks. So, yeah.
And that's like a normal day for you, but like you eat other stuff too.
Oh, yeah, like I could eat a piece of bread. I'm not going to, I could eat a piece of bread or eat peanut butter and almond butter. It's, I eat other things in order to make my macros. But my staples are always for lunch and dinners, a good serving of chicken or protein and then veggies. So, yeah.
I live on eggs, pretty much. Eggs are my favorite food, I think.
Guacamole.
Guacamole. Yeah. So, for breakfast pretty much every day, I have like 3 eggs, depending on how much fat I have. Like I try not to overdo too much fat at one time because I could eat, if I cook my eggs in grass-fed butter and I do 3 eggs and then I have,
Butter coffee.
And I could eat butter. I could eat fat all day long. My body feels good eating that way, but I know that it's really easy to overdo it too because you really, you can't have too much of it. It's like really calorically dense. So if I ate as much as I wanted, I'd be eating probably like an extra 1,000 calories a day, honestly. But I eat eggs every morning and usually like sweet potato hash. So just like diced up sweet potatoes. I eat sweet potatoes all the time too. I do kale a lot in the morning. I like a really big breakfast. Breakfast I like to be probably one of my biggest meals of the day. I usually have a banana with almond butter at some point during the day. Lunch is usually either chicken or ground turkey or ground chicken, cauliflower rice, vegetable. I do a lot. I kind of rely on a lot of steamable bags of veggies because I don't, I really don't like meal prepping. So if I can throw in a bag of steamable broccoli and be done with it, that's pretty easy. Dinner varies a lot, but we do a lot of fish at my house and we do steaks a lot and chicken and you kind of find out what you like and then you find out different ways to put it together, you know, and that's kind of how, but I would say 80-20. I usually do on the weekends. I'm a little more forgiving of myself. I'll have like fish tacos or something, which isn't perfectly paleo, but something like that. I don't always follow super paleo on the weekends, but I do try to eat, I try not to eat just crap. I try not to do that.
What are some of your cheat snacks, or like if you're going to break your rules?
A burger. But even if I can find a gluten-free bun, which would technically kind of make it paleo.
Oh, whatever. I would eat a pretzel bun if I could find one.
Yeah, I'll eat a burger. I love burgers. Burgers are probably my favorite food.
Yeah.
So if I and if it's got to be a good burger, I'm not going to quote unquote cheat for a crappy burger.
Right. Yeah, and I love pizza and tacos. I'll eat bread.
I like that too.
But it's going to be quality stuff. I'm not going to, go down to, not to name any names, but I'm not going to go down to like some like chain pizza store and just get a pizza to go just because I need that. Like I'm going to go to a legit pizza place and have a good pizza.
Yeah.
Not an entire pizza, I should say. But, if you're going to have something, it should be quality food.
And that's the difference. That's the difference is that back before we made this change, we were eating Little Caesars pizza multiple times a week.
Or, and an entire pizza. Yeah.
Fast food. And that's the difference. If you're going to have that food and you're going to enjoy it and you're not going to eat that way every day, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you shouldn't have food guilt. You should be able to eat that and enjoy it and then move on. Just because you have quote unquote one cheat meal, it doesn't mean you have to have a landslide of a day and it avalanched into a horrible weekend. You can have one meal that's, maybe quote unquote cheating or out of the norm and then move on. So
a lot of people like to live by the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I don't want to say I subscribe to that, but pretty inadvertently, that's what I end up doing. I mean, it's just easy. And you don't, just because you go out for one meal and you have whatever you want doesn't mean that, and for some people it does. So sometimes it is kind of a slippery slope for some people. You have abstainers and you have moderators, when it comes to food. And I kind of can't figure out where I fit in there because sometimes I do, if I make it too much of a habit of eating those types of meals too regularly. I mean, there's still a food addict in me somewhere,
Oh, yeah.
And so you do have to be kind of careful. And for a lot of people, they do have to abstain for a long time so they don't fall down that slippery slope. But that's part of the process and that's part of the lifestyle change is learning how to do that every now and then and not go crazy and not fall off the quote unquote wagon. I hate that saying so much, but people use it all the time and it's kind of true,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of controversy around things like wheat and grain products. I was wondering what y'all's thoughts on that was.
That is so funny that you asked that question. I was reading about this today. What do you think, Beth?
I'll eat, like I said, I'll eat bread, and I have grains. I don't have any, belly issues or any as far as health issues that I know about directly related to grains or, anything. So if I eat it sparingly and I feel okay, then I'm fine with it. And that's just for me. I mean, I do okay with it. So
yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about it a little bit because for a long time, whenever I was really getting into paleo, I was full speed ahead and I was doing it all. I was avoiding gluten. I was avoiding, most dairy, which is a good thing for me anyway, because I really don't do well with dairy, but I was really all in with paleo. And then I would have, quote unquote cheat meals every now and then. And it would have gluten in it and I would feel fine, you know, other than like obvious fatigue and just like grossness after having a meal that like is not ideal for me. Other than that, it never like really messed with my stomach. And I did paleo because I was having some really bad stomach issues and I was trying to pinpoint where they were coming from. And it's kind of crazy because I'm not one of those people with a gluten sensitivity. And there are a lot of people out there with gluten sensitivities. And I think that that's a real thing. And I do think that it is one of those products. And I mean, one of those foods, just like dairy is one of those foods, that there are a lot of people who don't tolerate it well. And so if you're one of those people, then no, it shouldn't be a regular part of your diet. But if you can eat high quality grains, like, you know, of course, if you can take the processed, really crappy stuff out, like, you know, our like white bread.
I was just going to say like bunny bread. Yeah.
Bunny bread and, you know, honey buns are gluten. You know what I mean? Like if you can take the crap out and you can be left with, you know, like quinoa doesn't bother my stomach at all. I think that if you can digest it and you feel well while you're eating it, I think
brown
that's fine.
rice. I mean, if you can have something that doesn't affect you, then
yeah. And brown rice is kind of funny because most people assume that brown rice is better than white rice. And the only difference between brown rice and white rice is that brown rice has the hull. So in terms
of fiber.
It does have more fiber and it might have some more vitamins and minerals, but from like a nutritional standpoint, like from a macronutrient standpoint, if you're trying to get carbs in, it's kind of better to just have the white rice because it's easier on your stomach. Your stomach doesn't have to digest it as much.
Oh, okay.
But it's just one of those things, like white rice has always gotten such a bad rap, and for what reason? I mean, it doesn't have a ton of nutritional value other than carbohydrates, but if you need carbohydrates to fuel and you're having trouble getting them, it's a great source. So it's just one of those things where I feel like it's just so personal. That's why I don't like to use the term paleo too much, because if you look in a paleo textbook, it's going to say, hey, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat this. White potatoes are fine for me. I have no problems digesting white potatoes. A paleo police officer would tell you not to have them,
Avoid them.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the kind of things where I find myself kind of pulling away from paleo a little bit more, because I think that every person's body is so different. And if you look at like humans over the course of history, we've all eaten different things based on our regions and where we come from. You know, the Mediterranean diet is one thing, and Italians are able to eat a different spectrum of foods. And you know, you look at Asian countries, like people from Asia who have been eating starches forever and ever and ever, and they're fine. So it's just about, you know, where people are derived from, what their what your digestive history is like. So I think it's all very personal to the person. I think that if you can start from a foundation of something like paleo and figure out what works best for you, sure, you may find that you have a gluten intolerance and that grains and gluten is not going to be an option for you, but you may find that you do just fine with them.
So you think dairy's okay too? You think in moderation, if it's not bothering you? And
I think if it's so I don't do very much dairy because I just don't tolerate it well. But I have found over like time and experimentation that if I do a really good quality, like grass-fed goat's milk or something like that, goat's milk cheese, that will not bother my stomach as bad as like a really highly processed, crappy quality cheese would. And so I think it kind of comes down to the same thing. It's quality of food too. You're taking in whatever the animal is taking in. So if that animal was treated really well and fed really well, its product is going to be better for you than this other one who was force-fed grain and corn or whatever. So dairy, the only other reason to be afraid of dairy, if it's a high quality dairy, would be saturated fat. So no, I think it's fine, because I think saturated fat is fine. But again, it's just person to person. I can't do that much dairy, but you know, if it's a high quality dairy, I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's a great source of protein and fat.
Well, yeah, and it's another part of, you know, why restrict something that you don't have to restrict. You know, we're trying to promote to people, you know, that you don't have to live a life full of restriction and, you know, being uncomfortable and only eating just, you know, 5 foods and that's it for the rest of your life. You know, I agree. I think that if dairy doesn't affect you negatively and it's high quality, then there's no reason to not be able to have something like that.
I feel like if you ask yourself the question, okay, if you say I can't eat that and someone asks you why, if you can really answer that question with a good solid, researched, answer that relates to you and your body, fine. But if you can't answer it, then maybe you need to rethink why you've subscribed to that rule. Because I think that is what causes dogma when it comes to nutrition and misinformation too. I mean, really. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. None of us know everything, but we're all here and we have to figure out what's going to work best for us while we're here. So that's kind of that's my stance on it. I really try to stay away from hard and fast food rules, Yeah.
Yeah, it can be tough because people develop camps for, kind of going back what we were talking about earlier. People develop camps and they really kind of drive in the points of what you can and can't do because they want to create a parameter for their thing so that people will join and subscribe to it and all that kind of stuff. Which, as a result, we've, from a scientific standpoint, with those niche communities, we've probably learned a lot from groups of people who have adopted and strictly gone by those things. But I'm kind of happy to see now it seems like we're starting to pull back and broaden the field of what's okay and where moderation comes, where moderation fits in.
Well, you were saying something about Mark Sisson too, and he was kind of one of the first paleo people, primal eater people, and everyone in that community, Rob Wolf and Diane Sanfilippo, these are all people that I really look up to and I really enjoy their books. And I think that the information they're putting out is great. And that's what I really like about that kind of part of it, is that they are trying to they're saying the same thing. They're basically saying, maybe we spoke too soon about this is what you can have and this is what you can't have. Maybe it's time for us to reevaluate why we made these decisions, or why, this has been a hard and fast rule, and reevaluate what it looks like on a bio-individual level. And I think that's really important.
Does Mark Sisson do his own podcast?
I only read his
blogs.
I only read his blogs, but I would imagine he
does. His blogs are great, though.
I would think that he has his own podcast.
I mean, everyone does, right? We have one.
We have one. I would be surprised if he doesn't.
I'm asking here, and I've got
we all have technology in front of us.
We have the internet.
Mark Sisson.
I don't know. Do you listen to Balanced Bites at all?
Balanced Bites? No.
Yeah, that is Diane Sanfilippo and Liz Wolfe, and they both, Diane Sanfilippo is the author of Practical Paleo.
What's her name one more time?
Diane Sanfilippo. Filippo, yeah, don't ask me how to spell that.
I'll find out. Is Liz Wolfe, is that any relation to Rob Wolfe? Or
no, actually, it's not. But she wrote Eat the Yolks, and that entire book is fighting the lie of fat. Okay. So that's a really great read if you haven't read that one too.
Okay.
Mark.
The Primal Blueprint podcast.
Okay.
Look, we're learning new things.
That's right.
Every day.
I'll have to subscribe to it.
Yeah, just subscribe to it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll check that out later. That's awesome. Yeah. But yeah,
he's so cool. He's like the dude, He's just this, just seems like such a balanced guy. Looks like he wakes up, has a juice, a juice he makes, and then goes surfing and does yoga.
What a life.
Yeah.
I want to work until I can afford to do that.
Right.
That's my dream life.
Yeah.
Just get up and go get a green juice from the cute place in the corner and go do yoga.
And then write a little bit about what you know.
Sounds awesome.
Kind of rehash the song. I mean, he does a phenomenal job of taking legitimate resource, like going through the research and just all that's out there and linking it into his works, and is very honest about where that moderation thing comes in.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he's set in stone in a lot of ways. Like, he's a guy who evolves with it,
And that's what's so important. Like, I don't understand how you can be considered like these people that we're talking about that are resources for us for nutrition and real nutrition. I don't know how you can consider yourself a resource if you're not willing to evolve with what knowledge is. I mean, you have to keep learning, and you have to keep researching, and you have to keep making decisions for yourself about things. You can't just if we just took facts at face value, we would still be afraid of fat even though,
Yeah, you can't just bury your head in the sand.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years did Americans think that fat was bad for us because the government told us that we should?
Or the sugar companies paid them off.
Exactly.
There was recently,
Nobody looked into that.
Yeah, I heard recently things.
They got paid off.
Yeah, New York Times, I think, did an article or something like that about how in the 1940s or 50s they paid them off and got them to state that, what was it, saturated fats were the evil ones.
And that's why, well, actually their most recent article in that magazine was basically a revision of the one that they posted whenever that information came out decades ago.
Oh, okay.
Because the old cover of the magazine was like 2 eggs and a bacon making a sad face.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how they announced to the whole world that saturated fat was the biggest enemy. And so they recently did like a revision to that article about it. But it's really interesting. Eat the Yolks talks all about that whole chapter of like FDA history. It's really interesting. But, and that's... there's probably other information out there that we are misled by now. I mean, you just have to keep reading and you have to keep learning and you have to keep your mind open.
Be open.
Yeah, totally.
Yep. I love how fast things are changing. Like, I know for a lot of people it's kind of a scary thing or whatever, but I mean, we're truly becoming the hive mind. And like when things like this happen, like collectively we're more sensitive and more aware to it.
Yeah.
We have our own consciousness residing within us and our own knowledge and information. But when you start doing things like involving the internet, which is this non-tangible thing, just like consciousness is, and you start, putting these conversations out there or putting blogs out there about all this kind of stuff, and people are connected to it, it's like this... It's like a hive mind, and it's like we're all getting in tune with it. So it's going to be a lot harder in the future, I think, for people to pull the wool over your eyes, where money and corporations to take the precedent over what becomes our standard of what we think's okay and everything.
Yeah, we have this ability to build communities on our own now, like in a way that we didn't before. And I mean, like before, how would you get a book published? Like you would really have to work hard to get a book published. But I mean, not to say that anyone can get a book published now, but I mean, pretty much anyone can get a book published now. I mean, you can pay to have your book published. And if you have, enough of a community, people will read it. And so it's all about, being able to move your information. And if you have enough support and enough reputable people supporting you, then you have the ability to reach a lot of people with what you're doing because of the internet. And you don't have to have any other power. It's kind of crazy. It starts to freak me out a little bit.
Yeah. It's like there's so much money out there, and usually corporations are the ones holding it down. But when you have all these people that can work independently through social media and just gain followings, it's like that money's getting dispersed, to all these independent parties. Because, I mean, you could write a book and independently publish it on, you can put it on Amazon.
I was just going to say, you could be on Amazon.
Yeah. And charge $8 for an ebook, and, it goes to the individual as opposed to going through middlemen and agents and all this kind of stuff. My next guest, Robbie D'Angelo, he's an author of a health and nutritional book, and I'm curious to pick his brain on that kind of stuff. But one of the books that I have up here in my little library, like that one there, How to Live in a Car, a Van, or an RV. I mean, that guy is just some guy who, I mean, that was published like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, but he's just a guy who travels around the country, and it's just a book on minimalism, basically, and it just talks about the way he did it, and he talks about the resources that are available now today in today's age, using the internet and public land that's free to the public, and just different things. And it's like a how-to book, but it's from his perspective. It's like his journey and a how-to together. And that's just something that some older gentleman just did, and and makes a little bit of money off of it to kind of keep himself going or whatever, and supplies me with knowledge for, or anybody who wants to adopt a minimalist lifestyle and to travel, whether it's for work or for the sake of recreation. And I've got another book that's a travel book that's like that from a guy. I mean, it's really like, you can tell he didn't have an editor, you know. There are some really funky sentences and stuff, but that's cool. I mean, it's just part of the way things are.
Yeah, he made it happen. I think that's cool.
Yeah, he made it happen. He did it.
Yeah, it's like a paperback zine.
Yeah.
I think that would add to the experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the little imperfections.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that it's empowering people to go for it, you know?
That's the biggest thing, is this empowerment that we feel with the possibility of it all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we would never, just the fact that there are all these different platforms, I mean, publishing a book, creating a newsletter. I mean, there's people out there that do that. I mean, bloggers that literally don't do anything but write about things, like are making a living sharing information. It's just crazy. Like, you just have to have this empowered moment where you realize that there's nothing that's separating you and the rest of the world to be that person that's sharing information, and then you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Like, we wouldn't be sitting here, the three of us in this room. We wouldn't know each other, or we wouldn't be talking to each other if we didn't decide at one point to just become empowered and to do something and create something out of nothing.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see here. I wanted to ask you guys, since we're all hyped up on the energy, we're feeling it here. Do you guys coffee or energy drinks? Or
Coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coffee. Yeah.
Energy drinks, not so much. But sometimes, depending on what it is.
Yeah,
There are a lot of natural
You ever
energy
use
drinks.
coffee as like a pre-workout?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I use as a pre-workout.
Okay, cool.
I do. I have coffee in the morning, obviously, because life, and then and then I usually have a coffee. I work out after work, so usually right about 5:30, and I always have a coffee at about 4-ish.
Yeah.
4:30.
And I do coffee in the morning before work. I do coffee at work. And then I usually do like a shot or two of espresso during the day.
And then coffee in between all those coffees.
Love coffee. Yeah. Just black.
We're coffee people.
Plain coffee. That's what I like.
Cool.
Or butter coffee.
Well,
Yeah, I do.
Beth doesn't like butter
I
coffee.
don't. It's voodoo.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I can't subscribe to it. I've tried. I can't do it.
I was
think
doing
it's
it for a couple months. I was doing coffee for a little bit, and I've since kind of gotten off coffee. Like, I was never a coffee drinker, and then I kind of got into it for a little bit, and I don't know, maybe one day I'll get back into it, but black tea is usually what I go for. And I'll put black tea or butter in a black tea with like a little bit of organic cinnamon and some black molasses.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Okay.
unsulfured black molasses. It has the lowest sugar content of all the syrupy stuff like maple and honey and all that. And then I think it has the most vitamins and minerals compared to other. And because it's a really dark syrup, you know, it kind of gives it a thicker, bolder taste.
Yeah.
So it
Like
kind
a
of
deeper flavor.
Yeah. So it kind of
Is it like smoky tasting kind of? Because
it's
of
really, I have some in here. I'll let you try it, but it's really, I don't know. There's not a lot that I could compare it to. It's just
See,
I
I would be willing to
different
try
thing.
that. I don't know. I really wanted to like butter coffee. I did. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do it. I can't.
I like it still. I just, like I said, I could eat fat all day long.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it became a problem. Like, I was having that, and I was also having like 3 eggs cooked in, grass-fed butter.
Yeah.
And then like it was just like bacon. Like, it was
Yeah.
just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either like one or the other for me, and I would rather eat food.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
But that sounds good. Do you have to brew your tea really strong to make that work? No.
Not really. No.
It's interesting. I've never even thought of like buttered tea.
And I put turmeric in it too.
Yum.
A little bit of turmeric, and that makes it even bolder. Gives it that
Interesting.
sharp taste.
People are doing turmeric in their butter coffee a lot now. It's big. People are even doing butter bone broth now.
Really? Mm-hmm. Butter
That's
everything.
becoming a thing. I mean,
Yep.
you can't ruin anything by putting butter in it.
No. I just want to eat food. I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink my fat. I want to eat it.
Yeah.
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 I feel you there. I need to get back into the butter thing though, and putting it in the coffee or the tea rather. It's a good way. As far as like eggs and big breakfast in the morning, recently I've been doing like egg muffins and just ground beef patties. I mean, and biscuits. I'm a sucker for biscuits. Like, I'm try to be mindful of the wheats and things like that, grains and all. But yeah, you just can't beat like pulling out a biscuit and a ground beef patty. And
biscuits are one of those things that fall into my 20 of my 80-20.
Yeah, right.
Those would be allowed in every now and then.
Butter on the biscuit, and man.
Do you ever go to the greenhouse on Porter?
Mm-hmm.
That's
They have
usually
good
when biscuits
biscuits.
enter my life.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're good.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of those things, like, they're probably better than biscuits that you find other places. They make them there.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me feel a little bit better about it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just a breakfast person, though. I'll eat breakfast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I know, right?
Oh, easily. Yeah.
I hear you.
Oh,
there.
yeah. I'm like Ron Swanson when it comes to breakfast. I'm serious about breakfast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, ladies, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Fun.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. One of the big things that got me was the fact that you guys did a podcast, and so you may be the first guest I've ever had who do another podcast.
Oh,
so that in itself
that's cool.
was enough for me to want to have you on.
Yeah.
But I love that you guys you're so involved, and you're back and forth with each other. I mean, just shows your chemistry that y'all have kind of developed with your own podcast. So thanks for doing this.
We
This
should
has
have
been
you
a
on our
lot of fun.
podcast.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. Yeah,
Let's do it. We'll
That'd
set
be
it
great.
up.
Yeah.
Heck
I'll
yeah.
awesome.
I'll get my agent on it.
Yeah.
My agent
Points
is
to
Beth.
Beth.
But we'll do that soon. We'll set up something because I have questions for you too
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll save that for our podcast.
Well, that'd be a great way to turn the table because I don't think I've been on anybody else's podcast.
Are you
either,
serious?
so I
Have
don't
you
think
never been
so.
interviewed on another podcast?
I don't think so. No, I know I haven't.
Ooh-wee.
All right. Well, give me a second to get my studio looking right.
Yeah,
Fly.
Yeah.
I will send you some links to some stuff to get like these bass traps or whatever.
I can't make any promises, but
We'll
try.
What's the timeline? But no, we'll have to have you on Mantras and Macros.
Sure, anytime. I'd be happy to do it. And tell people where they can go to kind of follow along with you. Your website and social media stuff. Where can they find you? Where's the good places?
mantrasandmacros.com. So MANTRASANDMACROS. No underscores or anything weird like that. But so that's our website. That's our blog too. I try to blog a little bit. There's links to everything else that's on the website. You can find our Instagram and our Facebook on there. But on Instagram, we're pretty active on Instagram. That's kind of where where we connect with people the most. And that's mantras _ and macros.
Cool. And I will link that to the Coastal Noise webpage so that you can go straight there from it. So
Yay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. This has been a lot of
thanks, Stefan.
fun.
This is
it's
fun.
always fun, right?
Yeah, this is great.
You always start out all nervous and then it ends up being totally fine. Yeah.
Yep. And I knew you guys would be a natural for it. So
Thanks.
you're already pros. That you know what to do. You just come in and you just go.
You just talk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just talk until you can't talk anymore.
That's it. That's it.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. Well, if you want to hear more nutritional stuff, please tune back in for when Robbie D'Angelo comes on, author of The Struggle is Real and nutritional coach, and all around cool guy. So we're going to just kind of feed off. This is a week of nutrition and wellness. Really exciting stuff, as you can tell. Talking with people who are passionate about it, it makes for great conversation, and it's just gets you revved up. Makes you want to go out there right
Really
now
does.
and throw some weights around and
Yeah.
eat some bacon. So
Yeah.
Exactly. Throw weights around and eat bacon.
Heck
yes,
yeah.
indeed.
Life.
Yep. All right, y'all. Till next time.